Okay, everyone, it's officially 8:30 p.m. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? Welcome home, everyone. Quick announcement, there's a pig roast in Allentown tomorrow. It was scheduled. It's been postponed because they were rained out and the park's flooded. The new date is the 22nd of September. Watch for the flyer in there if you were even planning on going to the pig roast, which is always a lot of fun. Anyway, with that, I don't know how much more we got to announce tonight. It's time for the world's greatest chairperson coming in all the way from Canada. Let's give Kara a nice warm welcome.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. Welcome home. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Hey Tom, welcome.
Hi, I'm Tasha. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey Tasha, welcome. Hey, welcome. Welcome. Welcome, Andrea. Welcome all. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. Now I would like to introduce a good friend of ours, Tasha, and she's going to come up and read Just for Today, Prayer of Recovery. Let's give her a warm welcome. Woo!
Hello, everyone. I'm Tasha. I'm an alcoholic. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can. Dress becomingly. Talk low. Act courteously. Criticize not one bit. Not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce my good friend, Will.
I am Will and I'm an alcoholic. Alcohol Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I have Paul to come up and read the 12 Steps of Recovery.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul. I'm an alcoholic. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. With that, let's welcome Kara back to the stage.
The 7 tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on the church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker as a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Dick a warm welcome. He came all the way from New Jersey. Woo-hoo!
Hello everyone, my name's Dick Spate and I'm a grateful alcoholic. By the grace of God and the miracle of AA, I've been sober since September 7th, 1992, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Glad to be here. Actually, I'm glad to be anywhere. I've taken the Folgers, the old Folgers advertising jingle and changed it to the best part of waking up is waking up. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd live to be this old. And it's all because of AA. It took me a long time to get into the AA. I drank for 35 years, used other substances the last 17. And I got a rehab 2 days before my 53rd birthday. And at that time, I didn't think I had long on this earth, and 32 years later, I was wrong. So I never complain about my old age because I'm so grateful that I got it, you know. A lot of people I met in AA, a lot of people I knew from prior times didn't get that time. I went to AA and worked the 12 steps and had a spiritual awakening. God, I wish it had been that easy. That's the short version. I did everything wrong when I went to AA. And I suffered for it. People say if you don't remember your last drink, you haven't had it. I think that's BS. I don't remember my last couple of years. But I remember early sobriety. And that is absolutely the worst place I've ever been in my life. And I know I don't want to go back there. I say it took me a long time to come in, but luckily, God willing, I've only had one sobriety date. And my sobriety date was actually an accident. September 7th was Labor Day, and I was going to rehab on 9/11 of 92. And I'd gotten very, very sick in the end with cocaine, and I didn't want them, that's what I wanted them to take care of. Everybody was talking about my alcoholism, and that wasn't a problem to me. So I put down the last drink on September 7th, so when I went to rehab, they wouldn't waste time on my alcohol. And I had no idea that was my last drink. I was planning on drinking when I got out of rehab. And I remember sitting in rehab thinking, these poor bastards, they could never drink again. I just can't use the stuff that almost killed me. And I was there 2 weeks, I think, and I mentioned that to my counselor, a big mistake. And she said, you can't drink. And I said, I'm not an alcoholic. And it got to the point where the executive director, this was September, told me that if I didn't change my attitude, I would be decorating the Christmas tree. So I started saying I was an alcoholic, but never believed it. I went to AA meetings. They told me, go to AA meetings and say you're an alcoholic, because otherwise they don't want you there. So I started my spiritual journey lying to my fellow alcoholics. And I really wanted to be an alcoholic, but as far as I could tell, I wasn't. And I was in AA. I thought I was unique, but Dr. Paul, Dr. Alcoholic Addict, I heard his story later on. He said the same thing. I was in AA for 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 months. And I was leading meetings, and I was speaking, and I read the big book, I read the step book, I read every piece of literature I could get because I wasn't working, I had a lot of time. And I woke up one morning and I thought, I'm an alcoholic. And for once I said that, I started remembering, I remember in rehab I said, these people talking about blackouts. Hell, if I blacked out, I would have quit drinking. And I really believed that, but then the memories start coming back, and I had a lot of blackouts. And I don't know what I thought they were, but I honestly thought I'd never had one until I started remembering all of them. And it was great. When I went to the next meeting, all of a sudden I'm an alcoholic, and I started identifying with people. I know I hear over and over that a drug is a drug is a drug, but until I thought I was an alcoholic, I sat and compared everything everybody said. And I wish I could be like that. I wish I wasn't craving a drink. I felt I was so sick I wasn't craving anything, but I kept thinking, I wish I had that product. I wish I had that, I told I was in aftercare, and I told my counselor, I said, these people all have family, and I'm all alone. I was completely alone. And he said, do you know how lucky you are? You only have to worry about yourself and your recovery. I thought, never thought of that. That made a big difference. But like I say, I did everything. I did do one thing right. I went to meetings. Okay, I didn't go to meetings to find sobriety because I had 30 days by this time. I didn't go to find God because I wasn't looking for God. I went for one reason and one reason only. I had no place else to go. I'd lost my car. I lost my clients, and I had no family in the area. I had nothing else to do. So every day I went to meeting, at least one meeting a day, every day for 14 months. The only thing I didn't do was take the steps outlined in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. So at 14 months, I was sicker than I was when I came into AA. I was so in my head, I wasn't going to commit suicide, but I didn't want to wake up in the morning. Every time I'd wake up, it was like a disappointment. And I was miserable. I had a sponsor because if you don't have a sponsor, people think you aren't trying. So I got a sponsor. He was doing community service at my rehab, so I grabbed him. Never called him, but I saw him at meetings once in a while. And I talked a really good game. You know, I'd say I was leading the big book meetings. I was really into the big book. And newcomers would ask me to sponsor them. My ego wouldn't allow that. How can I say I hadn't worked any steps? I guess I didn't even take the first step yet because I didn't think I needed the other steps. And every time I'd complain to my sponsor, he'd say, well, let's start the steps. And I'd say, oh, easy does it. It's not a race. Slow to all the BS I heard in the meetings. You know? And so finally, at 13 months, I was at a step meeting, and the leader who had turned out he was bipolar, but he got mad at us because somebody asked a question. He threw his book down and walked out. He said, you people are all sick, and I'm out of here. So for some reason, I got a resentment over him saying that. So a couple days later, I'm thinking about this guy, and I'm still angry. And I thought, well, you know what? He's right. I am sick. But I have a way out. And I can get better. I should be grateful for that. And the farthest thing from my mind or from my tongue was the word gratitude. But I thought, you know, I really should be. So the following meeting, I'm going to tell everybody I'm grateful. And so the leader said, tonight, let's have gratitude as a topic. So as soon as he said that, I couldn't say anything. So I sat there for an hour. And finally, at 2 minutes to go in the meeting, he said, Dick, you got anything to add? And I said, I'm a grateful alcoholic. And he said, what? And the third time I said, I'm a grateful alcoholic. And that's the first time I said it, and as far as I know, I've said it every time I've introduced myself since then. And I often thought that I should start my sobriety, I should use that as my sobriety date, the day I became grateful. I thought, no, I'm not going to give up 14 months. My ego wouldn't let me do that, so I keep my old sobriety date. But once I said I was grateful, and every time you say that, you think, what are you grateful about? And then I think, you know, I am grateful. So I thought, you know, I'm going to work the steps. So I told my sponsor, I'm going to show you that they don't work on somebody like me. Because I don't do stuff like that, and I wouldn't read how it works when I was in rehab because I didn't believe it. So I started working the steps and found out I was wrong about that, like I was wrong about most things in my life. I believed in God, but I didn't think God believed in me. You know, I would once in a while say something to God, but I didn't think anybody was listening. And I didn't deserve it, I guess. I lost everything I had in the year leading up to getting sober. And what I didn't lose, I lost in the 2 years after that. So I really wasn't feeling grateful. So at 14 months, I said I was grateful. And every time I said that, it would reinforce it. And so I started working the steps. And I had done the third step prayer every morning for about a year. And nothing happened. But I heard other people in the meeting say the same things. Every morning I turn my will over to God, and every night I apologize for taking it back. So I'm doing what they're doing. Now this time I'm committed to do my fourth step. So I start with exactly what the book says, and I ask myself, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe there's a power greater than myself? And the answer is yes. Not that he would help me, just is there a power? So I said yes. So I read the third step, and the page before the prayer where I'd been concentrating, it says here is the how and why of it. It tells me exactly what to do. First of all, I had to quit blaming God. I had been guilty of that, yes. Secondly, and then I had to decide that hereafter in the struggle of life, that he was the director, I was the actor, he was the principal, I was the agent, he was the father, I was the child. And there are promises after you do that. At the top of page 63, there are promises before you ever get to the prayer. And even though I knew intellectually that the third step was a decision, I thought saying that prayer, like that's what I heard the means. If I said the prayer, you turn your will over to God. I heard people say they did it that way. I would like to talk to those people now to see how they did it. But anyway, I made the decision. And then, of course, the next page, it says that decision will have little lasting effect unless at once followed by a vigorous inventory. And my sponsor says, if somebody's hitting you with a baseball bat and you want them to stop at once, what is that? And I said, yeah, right away. So I did my fourth step. It took me 14 months and about 7 hours. And I only wrote for 7 hours. But I had thought about it every day for 14 months. And I don't know why, because I wasn't going to do it. So I started writing, and the first resentment, Harry Kuklin. This is a resentment I had carried for 40 years. And I wrote it down on the sheet the way I was supposed to. And I looked at it and I thought, that never happened. It was a lie for 40 years. In my head, it got to be quite a deal. He was my homeroom teacher in 10th grade. He was my swimming coach. He knew my family. He thought he and I were friends. I hated him because of what I thought he said. And when I wrote it down, I realized he didn't say it. He was quoting the principal from my junior high. That was a shock, because I'd lived with that thought for years. So I threw that away so no one would think I was a complete idiot. And I started, and I was amazed. The more I wrote, the more I realized that you weren't the problem. I was the problem. And that gave me some hope. Because if you're the problem, I'm pretty much screwed. But if I'm the problem, I can do something about it. And then I really got into it. So I called my sponsor, I guess the next morning, and said, I'm ready to do the fifth step. And so we set up a date, and he canceled. And we set up a second date, and he canceled. He was too busy. So now I'm chomping at the bit. So Friday night at the 5:30 Florham Park meeting in New Jersey, I asked this lady who had about 10 years if she'd listened to my fourth step. If she's listened to my fifth step or my fourth. My fourth step's done. I want to read to somebody for my fifth step. How's that? And she said, I would love to. So the next day we went to the shrine, St. Joseph, down in Long Hill, New Jersey. Sat in the sun, and it was very, very spiritual for me. And I'll never forget that. Every fifth step I listened to, I felt the same way, I think. But it was I was part of us. I was a member of AA now. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. I was the same. So I went home, did 6 and 7, wrote my list on Sunday, and Monday when I walked into the 5:30 meeting, I was one of us. I was home. And what everybody was saying sounded a little different to me at that point too. But it was an amazing feeling. The biggest thing I got out of that, in case you didn't get what I said, was I was the problem. And there are a lot of people in my meeting at that time who were don't drink and go to meeting people. And I heard him say that if you bring your problems to AA and you share your problem, it is halved. But I noticed 4 years later, the same people were sharing the same problems. Because the problem was their husband or their wife or their kids or their boss or their employees, and it was never them. I'm not a person that ever took inventory in my life until I did my 4-step. But it's life-changing. To me, it was to look at, I was never wrong before in my life. Even if I kind of knew inside I was wrong, I was going to argue until you said, I give up. And it was amazing to say, you're right, I was wrong, and mean it. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. So yeah, I went to AA and worked the 12 steps, and I had a spiritual awakening, personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism. But it took me 14 months to attempt that. And I've tried to never look back. I've gone through periods of complacency. There was a period about 5 years where I didn't go to meetings, but I took a message to detox every Sunday morning during that time. I went to 2 jails a month, and I spoke at Greystone, it's a mental institution, a number of times. Paul here, my friend, he's one that I take newcomers to Greystone, and if they're nervous, I say, don't worry, nobody's going to listen to a word you say, and they don't listen to you. So you just talk, and it's a good experience, My first time there, they had to break up. The couple was making out in the back row. They had to break up the meeting. And I remember one time there, I said, I've learned through experience the hard way that I don't tell people what to do. I share my experience, strength, and hope, and if that helps you, fine, But I don't say yes, no, I don't do that. So it was a speaker discussion, so they got done, and Richie said, any questions? And there were no questions. He said, none? So he said, well, he said he won't answer questions. I said, no, I'll answer questions. I just won't I won't tell you yes or no. I will share my experience. And I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. The buckle on the Bible Belt. We didn't have liquor by the drink till I was in law school, I don't think. No, I didn't. And I grew up my father was an alcoholic. He died when he was 58 years old. 21 years later, I was in rehab, and I told my counselor my father was an alcoholic. And I swear, that's the first time those words were ever used, or I never even thought those words about my father. But I know he was an alcoholic, and he died very young. And in my later stages, I knew I was dying, and it's a Spate curse. I'm going to die when I'm 58. Very dramatic. I don't know where it came from, but I was convinced I was going to die at a young age, and I almost did. But my father was an alcoholic. Both his brothers were alcoholics. I lost uncles on both sides, aunts, cousins who died of this disease. But I was the black sheep of the family because I'm the first one who went to AA. I remember my mother telling someone, Dick's got the thing, he had to go to AA. And no one looked at the fact that everybody else that had it died, or one of them ended up in an institution. But I was the black sheep. I had access to alcohol anytime I wanted it, so it wasn't even a big deal to me. And I didn't really start drinking until I was 17. And I loved it. like everyone else, I always felt different. And I was never comfortable. I kept to myself. I read incessantly. In grade school, walking home from school, I'd stop at the library and get 3 books. And I'd go home and I'd read those 3 books, even if it meant flashlight under the blanket at night. Take it back the next day and get 3 more. And Saturdays, if I was a good boy, I got to go to the movies. And I loved the movies because, again, I lived through those books and movies. And I was different than anybody in my neighborhood. I felt different, and I think I was kind of different. Nobody else was really interested in the things I was in. I was into fishing and hunting too, but I loved to read. And when I started drinking, all of a sudden we were all the same. It was amazing. Except when I drank too much, then I became better than you. So it was only a while that you and I were on the same level. It's when I was going up or when I was coming down. But I could do anything. I could be whoever you wanted me to be when I was drinking. That's what I liked. First time I was supposed to tell my story, I thought, if you talk, I know 10 people in my life, if you talk to them, they'll tell you that I'm a different person. I mean, they'll give you a different description of me because I was different. You got Jekyll and Hyde is based on alcoholics, and I was that. I mean, every time people saw me drink for the first time, they say, "My God, you're so different when you drink. You're a lot funnier, and you're louder, and you talk more." And I guess I thought that was good. And I could always drink more than anybody else. People would get tired and go home. I didn't do that. I kept drinking until, I had to go to sleep or it was morning. And I just thought that was a good thing. All the people that, a lot of the people I hung with in college that I thought were, I picked the alcoholics out, they all quit drinking when they graduated from college. So, except the ones that didn't are all dead. But I had a wild time in college with drinking. I loved to drink. I was in chemical engineering as an undergraduate, and Friday afternoon was a lab, chemistry lab, and Friday afternoon is also when everybody goes to the woods with a keg of beer. So I would get the assignment and leave. I would dry lab it, just do it at home, and then I'd turn it in. And things are going well. I was getting good grades on my lab work until I got my course grade, and they knocked me down 2 points because she said, "You never went to lab." But she told me I had the makings of a very fine theoretical chemist because I didn't know how to do it. I got the right answers, but I didn't actually do it. But anyway, her classes got in the way of my drinking, but I always maintained a good enough grade. I didn't do as well as everyone expected me to do, but I didn't flunk out of school. And my junior year, I'm in chemical engineering, and we all had slide rules on our belts and pencils and no calculators back then. And I was sitting in a class and I looked around and I thought, I do not want to spend the rest of my life with people like this. So I called my mom and I said, I'm going to go to law school and apply. And she said, "Oh, all right." So I went over, and it was the last day that you could apply for that term. I had no idea, just God's will. How's that? So I went and applied, and I went to law school. And my freshman year in law school, I turned 21, which meant I could throw away my fake ID and I could I'd been going to the bars on the outskirts of town. Now I could go to the ones downtown where all my friends went. So law school is a little different than the engineering class. For 16, 17 hours of credits, I would go to class 40 hours. law school, I would go 12 hours for 12 hours, you know, it was hour for hour. So some days I'd be done at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'd go down to the Diamond Bar and Grill to get a beer and a sandwich. And then I'd get on the shuffleboard table, and I got to be pretty good, spending long hours there. So I would get home, midnight they closed, luckily. All the bars closed at midnight. So I'd get home at midnight, and then I'd go to school the next day. And there were no tests, no quizzes, no papers, nothing for 9 months. So I did nothing. I went to class. And then finals were coming up, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I'm going to flunk out of law school. So I had a friend who was in pharmacy school, the University of Nebraska Medical School, and he sent us a box of pills. We had no idea what they were. We called them diet pills, but big black ones or brown ones, all different colors. And we just took them and basically stayed up for 3 weeks cramming. And I passed all my courses. My friend who had drank with me every day that we went drinking, he was with me. He flunked out. So he accused me of studying during the year when he didn't know I was studying. You know, that's the worst thing you tell somebody, you studied. Anyway, he flunked out. I passed all my courses, but I'm at the bottom of my class because anybody below a 70 is a fail. So of the 80 of us, only 35 went on to our sophomore year. And I'm at the bottom of my class. Then that insult to injury, the people who flunked out got to come back the next spring, take the exams, and they got the second grade. So people that flunked out had a higher freshman average than I did. But I started working on it, and I graduated in the upper quarter of my class finally. So I've gone through law school, I'm engaged to get married, and I've got a job with a law firm. So I go to the bar exam, took the first day, and then I grabbed about 15 or 20 friends, and I said, let's go to this place outside of town. They had hamburgers and pool tables. We had a couple beers, hamburger, relax, and then go home and get a good night's sleep. Everybody did that except Dick. I was still there at 4 in the morning drinking. So I go into my second day of the bar exam, and I was sick as a dog. I was chewing tums and trying to stay awake. And so I knew I'd flunked out. So I went home and I called my new employer and said, I failed the bar exam, I'm not going to be able to take the job. And he said, here's a concept. He said, why don't we wait till you get the grades? I said, okay. Called my fiance and I said, it's off. Can't get married. So, as you might have guessed, I passed. And, but I remember saying, never, ever again. What I went through for 5 days was just pure hell. So, I practiced law for 3 years, and then every night after work, all the young lawyers would sit in the bar and discuss lawsuits, how we handle lawsuits. I don't know what the hell we were talking about. But it was a nightly affair. And after 3 years, I decided I wanted to get more into tax work. So I went over to an accounting firm and I said, you know, I'd like to apply for a job. And they happened to be hiring attorneys then, because they were going through a large expansion, and the tax department was hiring attorneys. And they sent me to 12-week school where I got all of I never had any accounting courses, so I took 6 weeks of accounting, 3 weeks of tax, or 3 weeks of audit and 2 weeks of tax. And I got back, I got situated, I hooked up with a couple senior partners who I think were alcoholics, but I'd go drinking with the bosses, and you know they'd pay, and I couldn't get in trouble because I'm with them as long as I came to work the next day. So things went along, and I was doing very well there, actually. And then they wanted me to take the CPA exam. And Nebraska had no educational requirement for the CPA exam. I think if you could pass it, you could pass it, right? So I go to take the exam. The first day is a half day. I did that. The next day, I didn't think I did very well, so at noon I thought I'd go have a drink to relax. And I ended up drinking martinis till 5 o'clock, and I didn't go back. And I went back and took the last day I took part of it. So much to my surprise, I passed 3 out of 5 parts, which is enough to condition. So I got credit for what I passed, and I just had to retake the rest of it. But I didn't tell anybody that I got drunk instead of taking one part of the exam. And years later, when I'm in AA and I'm telling my sponsor that I'm not really an alcoholic, and then he heard my story and he said, "You're in the big book. You go to 4 years of law school and then get drunk during the bar exam." I said, "Then you go to the CPA exam and you get drunk during the CPA exam." I said, "Ordinary people don't do that." And that started me thinking. And also it says in the doctor's opinion that non-alcoholics don't get the phenomenon of craving. Of course, I didn't know anything about that till I came to AA, but I thought, when I drink, I want to drink more. And when I want to drink more, I don't care what else is going on, I'm going to drink more. So it was, that was part of the process where I became an alcoholic. And today I'm very alcoholic. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm an alcoholic, because without being an alcoholic, I wouldn't have gone to AA, and I sure as hell wouldn't be alive today and sitting here talking to you. I had about 85 days, and I went to a friend. I didn't have a car, so a friend took me to a Wednesday night meeting. It happened to be the night before Thanksgiving, 1992. And I walk in, they say, "Welcome to our annual gratitude meeting." And I thought, crap, I'm out of here, but I couldn't leave. It's snowing outside, and it's really cold. So I walked outside and sat and smoked while they had their gratitude meeting, and then I got so cold I went back in. So I sat down next to this elderly gentleman, and someone called on him, and he said, "Hello, everyone. I'm Maximilian the Grateful Happy Alcoholic today." And I thought, oh my God, and here I'm sitting next to him. 2 years later, when he heard me introduce myself as a grateful alcoholic, he said, "You're halfway there, son." And I understand what he meant now, but I certainly was not a grateful alcoholic. And I think it was Dr. Paul, Dr. Alcoholic Hack, said, I heard him speak, that if you're in AA and you're not happy, you're not doing it right. And I truly believe that. He said, if you don't understand that, ask your sponsor. And if your sponsor doesn't understand that, get another sponsor. There's no reason in the world to be in AA and be miserable. Believe me, I went through 14 months of it, and it was hell. I say I never ever. I've been some pretty sordid places in my career, but never as bad as early sobriety. But I had no hope. You grow up with the idea that if you have a problem, you have to solve it. Well, here I had one I couldn't solve. I lost all my things. I had no people. All I had was Alcoholics Anonymous, for God's sakes, How pitiful is that? And I couldn't ask for help. I used to ride my bike to the meetings, and I wanted to ride, but I didn't want to ask anybody for rides. So I remember one day I was talking to Eddie, and I said, you know, I was riding down Brook Lake Road last night after the meeting, man, it's pitch black. I almost got hit by a car. Thinking he would say, why don't you ride with me? But of course what he said was, you better get a light for your bike. So, thanks, Eddie. Where am I? Here I am. As I say, I went through a period, well, let's back up. Probably the two worst things I could think of that could happen to me would be have to go to AA, and the second one happened to me in 2001. I try to practice the principles, but sometimes I didn't. And I met a girl in AA, I waited until she had a year, and then we moved in together, and we bought a condo together, in fact. And August 12th, 2000, I came home from the Freedom House family picnic, I'll never forget. And she was sitting in the bed and she said, we need to talk. And when you need to talk, it means I did something, right? And she said, I'm pregnant. Now, she had told me that she couldn't get pregnant again, but the doctors had told her that. So I didn't use no protection. But I'm going to be 61. And I got 3 grown kids. And I just started work after 6 years. I didn't work when I got sober. I did odd jobs when I had no job. And I just started working at Freedom House down in Glen Gardner, New Jersey, as a chief financial officer. And so I said, I talk about fear. I don't know how I'm going to support myself. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I can't do that. So I said, well, I'm not going to do this. And she said, well, I am. So I said, well, I can't do half measures, so let's split. We're going to sell the apartment, and we'll just go our separate ways. And the next day, she said, I talked to my sponsor. She thinks that this child is a gift from God. I said, oh my God. I said, I'm not getting involved in this. So for 2.5 months, I told everybody what she was doing to me. I mean, disrupting my whole life. And I picked the people I told, but everybody agreed with me. It might have been because I picked the people, but everybody felt sorry for Dick. Luckily, during that time, to not go crazy, I was doing prayer and meditation every morning. And just before my 61st birthday, I was doing prayer and meditation, and the thought came to me from somewhere, what if she's not doing anything to you? And what a concept. And I thought, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what the hell she was doing to me. And just like that, there wasn't any problem. So I said, I want to be a part of this, and I want to go with you. The doctor's appointments, and I'm in. I told her that. We went out for dinner on my birthday, and I told her then, I'm in. And so that problem went away. And then January 5th, 2001, we got married. Jimmy was coming in April. And January, I think it was the 15th, I called the urologist's office to get the results of the, what do you call them?
Pregnancy results?
Huh?
PSA?
No. Biopsy. And the 2 times before, the nurse said, yeah, you're okay. This time, the nurse who I knew said, you'll have to talk to the doctor. I said, what do you mean? It's me. She said, you'll have to talk to the doctor. So the doctor gets on the phone and said, we're very lucky. That's bad news. You have cancer, but we caught it early. And somehow that didn't sound lucky to me. So I hung up and I started to do like I think ordinary people would do. Why me? Why now? I mean, I've got a kid coming. Why now? And I thought, stop, you know? I just wasted over 2 months over a problem that I couldn't even remember when the 2 months was up. And I'm not going to waste whatever time I got left. So what I told my sponsees was, you take the actions you can take and leave the results up to God. So that's what I'm going to do. So my wife and I researched it, and I found a doctor. And the day Jimmy was born, I met a doctor who said he could take care of it. He said, it's a big deal to you, I know, but I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. So I had surgery and was cancer-free. Well, I've been cancer-free since May 8th, 2001. Until January 2024, chest x-ray led to a CAT scan, left to biopsy, and they found cancer, a different place, you know. But this time I said, I am not going to go crazy over this because it doesn't do any good. I mean, I was a worrier my whole life, and believe me, I wasted days, weeks, years worried about crap. You know, the old, I think, is it Mark Twain, the picture of the old man with the long beard? I've had many, many hardships and problems in my life, and most of them never happened. That's me. So I said, I'm not going to do anything different. And where we are now is it's a slow-growing cancer, so I have a 6-month follow-up period, and I just had the first follow-up, and it hasn't spread and it hasn't grown, so basically they think I'll die from other things before the cancer gets me, but I don't really want the surgery at this point anyway. But it's such a different feeling to face life on God's terms. I always hear life on life's terms, but it's on God's terms. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I am not going to waste my life worried about it. For the simple reason it doesn't do any good. So I have other old person problems, you know. But like I say, I don't complain about that. I'm so grateful to be able to have old person problems, you know. I don't move around as fast as I could, but the blessing I got in I told my daughter, which was probably a mistake, I told her that Jimmy, her half-brother, was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I had to explain to her, but he came at a time when I was kind of going through life, and I was living one day at a time, I guess, but there was no spark to it. I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd go to work, I'd go to a meeting, and now I had a chance to be the father I never was. And believe me, I went into it 100%. And when he got to school, I said, anything my son has at school, I'm taking time off work to go to it, period. We went through Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. And remember, at this point, I'm 70 years old. And we went camping. I remember we went to the, what's the boat in Camden? I guess in New Jersey. And we were walking, it's all up and down ladders. And we're standing there at mess that night, and I said to the scoutmaster, I said, I'm too old for this crap. He said, why do you keep saying that? I said, well, I'm 68 years old. He said, you are not. So he said, Jimmy, how old is your dad? And Jimmy said, 68. He said, let me see your driver's license. You believe that? He books me. So I showed him my driver's license. I quit coaching basketball when I was 74. Baseball I coached until I was 75. And I spent more time with that kid and more miles in my car going to his events, and I loved it. I mean, it was great. And I thank God for that. Of course, my older children who I neglected didn't really see it that way, but I tried to explain to them, you know, I can't make it up to you now. Hell, you're 50-some years old. We're friends now, but I want to be a father to this kid, and you know. So unfortunately, besides the age, there's a difference between Jimmy and the other three. But I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. And I thought that's the worst thing that could happen to a guy like me. Your girlfriend get pregnant. And so I don't know much about anything, I guess, you know. And when I sponsor people, I was wrong about most things in my life. Why the hell would I tell you what to do? I will share my experience, strength, and hope with you, and I'll show you what I did, and I'll take you through the work, but I can't run your lives for you. Besides, my life's not manageable by me today. I hear people a lot of times when they come to the podium, they say that I became a serious alcoholic, I drank too much, and my life became unmanageable. And then I hear their story, and it's not different than mine, that my life was unmanageable when I was 5 years old. I was afraid of everything. It was all self. I had to do everything myself, and I was afraid to do everything. And I didn't think I could do it. And that's why I had to drink. Drinking made my life manageable. It didn't make it unmanageable. Now, I did some crazy things when I was drinking, yes. That's not unmanageability. The other thing I hear people say, that they come to the podium, and I don't know why, because it's pretty clear on how it works, but they say they're going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. That's not what the book says. I can tell you what I was like. But my perception of what it was like bears no resemblance to reality. I mean, I made my own world. I lived in my own world for many, many years. And you'd be thankful that you weren't there, because it was not a pleasant place. Well, sometimes it was the best of times, but other times it was the worst of times. You know, but I'm grateful that I'm an alcoholic, because everything I told you tonight, I learned since I became an alcoholic. And they say you can't go back and change history, but I'll tell you, for years I said that I didn't start growing up till I came into AA at 53 years old. So my childhood wasn't always pleasant, but it was sure as hell was a long one. And I believed that I had a very bad childhood. And then, like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm thinking about it, saying, what the hell are you talking about? I had complete freedom. We didn't have much, but I got whatever I needed. And I fished and hunted, and I walked the creeks, stayed in minnows and crawdads, like Stand By Me, my favorite movie. I did all those things, and I could do whatever I wanted. And I know my parents loved me. They didn't know how to show it, but I know they loved me. And I realized I had a very good childhood. And the house was dysfunctional, but it got a lot better once I left, and that's for sure. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Let's give Dick one more hand. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for sharing your message. You know, it's customary for us to form a line up front, thank our speakers, personally. They come here at their own time and expense, and let them know, how important it is that they do that. I mean, and that's actually what we do every week. We try to carry a message of hope and recovery. We have a treatment center, H&I commitment. It's in Quakertown. If you're interested, see me after the meeting. We need 2 or 3 speakers every week, and that's an ongoing commitment, and that's what this group's about. It's about helping others, carrying the message to the sick and suffering, like Dick was talking about, the psych wards, the prisons, the detoxes, and the rehabs. And as a person that has family members that are constantly going through these facilities. I know the importance of it, and I know you guys have experienced that too. If you went through a treatment center and you know that the people come in, they look forward to that. So you can be that beacon of hope. Anyway, we got a nice way of closing. If you care to join us, we'll circle up, we'll hold some hands, and if you want to join us, we will end with the Lord's Prayer, and then we'll have the meeting after the meeting. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Good stuff. Let's take a moment of silence for the sick and suffering. If you care to join us, one with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep on back. It works if you work it. And if you remember, don't forget all these talks are posted. We have like 600 or 800 posts on Facebook. Check them out. Thank you.